Welcome, everyone, to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. We appreciate your questions and comments. Send them to dj@artistfirst.com. And now here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, Z-Man. And you see how he did that, Mark?
Hmm?
You see how even and balanced that was?
Oh, it was marvelous.
It was marvelous. And there's nothing like a smooth radio DJ intro, is there?
Nothing like it.
Nothing like it. And tonight's show, thank you very much for listening to The Soul of Everyman. I am Michael Lyons.
And I am Margaret.
We are your balanced, dynamic duo tonight.
Oh, is that what we are?
That's what we are. And tonight's show is about balance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've had maybe almost a year ago, maybe we had a show which was sort of based on this topic.
Yes, maintaining balance.
I think we were talking about life balance and
Mm-hmm.
and also balancing the energies. But I think over the course of the last 18 months or so, we've learned a lot about how to balance a lot of different things, in any particular day.
Yes.
We've also learned a lot about the balance of a conversation and how, especially when you're, folks, we're sitting in the same room. In case, magic of radio. Sorry, breaking the fourth wall. But we're sitting in the same room, so we look at each other across the room and we can talk to each other. But it's important to realize that we have to balance that conversation.
Mm-hmm. We do. And unless that flow is ongoing, it'd be awfully boring.
Yeah, I think it's very challenging. I know there are folks who do sort of monologue radio shows or monologue talk shows of whatever type, and I think it's exhausting because what you're doing, you're completely emitting, and there's no particular real feedback.
Right.
And so you have, like, let's say you're on for 45 minutes or an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever it is, because some of these shows go on for 3 hours, and you have to literally come up with an interesting topic or topics and kind of blast them out there. And then some of these shows do take callers. And we encourage that. You should probably call the studio right now. We're not going to give out the number, though, because then our engineer will kill us. but no, I mean, they encourage people to call in because that'll lend some degree of balance. But I think that when you are having a conversation with somebody, whether it's somebody you know or somebody you know well, rather, or somebody you don't know all that well, that active listening as well as speaking, that kind of balance of what their opinion is versus your opinion, and then where you agree and where you disagree, that's starting to become, I mean, just as a sort of an example, it's starting to become less and less a skill.
Oh, indeed. Well, that's more. If you wanted to make it into a symbol, it's like a circle within a circle, and all you have is the single emitter from the middle. Whereas a conversation, if you think of the Tao symbol, the yin yang, the whole idea is that the black and the white movement, each one has the opposite color eye, and it's understanding that it's maintaining the knowledge of the other as it rotates around the circle, because that is exactly how the dance goes. You keep the other on your focus, the focus point of your eye, and you commence in that flow of movement back and forth. So it's acknowledging. It's almost acknowledging the fact that you are expanding the knowledge of the other.
As well as your own.
And the eye is a circle also. So it's again understanding that it is an infinite byplay.
And I like the fact that it is called, they call it the eye of each part of the yin and the yang. but it's also the I, like as in the I am myself I.
Mhm.
So in a conversation, you need at least two people. Let's just say, you can talk to yourself, but it gets old, and people wrap you up, take you away. So actually these days you can get away with it all the time. You just have to hold a cell phone to your head, and you can walk around talking to yourself all day long.
This is true.
These are life hacks, folks. You can write them down. You can use them without attribution. In fact, please don't attribute them to us. But back to the point where the I in the conversation has to look to and acknowledge the other I in the conversation. So you must have these two beings, these two individuals, and then you enter into a space where they morph each other. They start as two spheres, and they morph into this yin-yang. They morph into a shape which is in motion. Folks, everyone looks at the yin-yang and say, well, it's a cute picture, but it's never depicted correctly because it's always in motion. It's supposed to represent constant motion, constant flow. And so a conversation, a balanced conversation, has a flow.
Mm-hmm.
It has two eyes,
Mm-hmm.
4 ears.
Right. Yeah, that old adage of you're given 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you're supposed to listen twice more than you speak.
Yeah, and sometimes those old sayings, which they're sayings because they're true in a lot of respects.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea, and I think we go back to the current sort of social milieu and the social media, the idea that instead of listening and having a conversation, that people just get onto their favorite platform, whatever it is, and spew out their opinion. And then either two things happen. Either everybody ignores you, but you spew as you wish, or you get this giant sort of maelstrom reaction, and everybody condemns you, or it isn't a conversation. It's, we don't like what you said, so we're going to destroy you. Or we don't care about what you said, so we're going to ignore you. Neither one of those is a conversation. There's just,
right.
It's either you spew into space and nothing happens, or you fire a shot and everybody else fires a shot back at you. We aren't dialoguing. We're really at war.
Right. Right. It's basically there is no interest outside of the I sphere. They just want to have that single sphere. They don't want to do the dance of communication or the flow of communication,
or the change, the warping or the morphing of yourself. Because no one wants to modify their sphere to accommodate the other sphere.
Right. No, that's uncomfortable.
That's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because the realization of going through time, that it's part of the three-dimensional space and then going through time. So the movement is multi-dimensional. It's not just this two-dimensional image on a piece of paper that's just sort of spinning.
Yeah, and that's very true. It's if we talk about it is the sort of one of the penultimate mandala symbols of balance is that yin and yang, and it's famous, of course, but it's often misrepresented. You see it as a static, flat picture. You see it, all gussied up, and people do all kinds of, throwing various colors and who knows what, and just so they don't take it as what it is. It's really a representation of an energy flow or two energy flows in a three-dimensional or four-dimensional space. This is time and space,
mm-hmm. and
the flows are ever changing, ever flowing, but always in balance. To forgive it a word, the yin side never overcomes the yang side. Or in Oriental medicine, oftentimes they'll describe the flows of the body as being out of balance,
mm-hmm.
and then that's what causes, whatever type of affliction that you're having.
Right.
And so rebalancing those flows, and you did a a tremendous amount of study of chi flow and chi infusion and the modalities of healing that are used for that, and also the modalities of moving that energy. It's always in balance.
Right. Now the idea is to come to that balance and know when there is no flow. Because when there is no flow, then it automatically goes out of balance. So full health means that all your points and your meridians are flowing, participating fully in the body. And when the energy flows, that means that all the rest, the blood flow is there, the thoughts are immediate and smooth, the movements are coordinated, you are centered, your body centered is in the hara, or the third chakra. That is your power center, the physical power. Mm-hmm. And movement stems from there. But understanding that you're engaged in all of your energetics, or all the chakra centers are actually moving. Because that's the other thing that people, when they see any of the patterns that are equated to each of the chakras, again, it's always a static thing. Oh, that's just the symbol of Om for the crown. But it's again energy, and the energy, when you see it, it has this almost like a bowl at the top with this almost, it looks like a teardrop shape. Well, that's that flame connection. The bowl is actually your head. The crown of your head.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people who had bowl-shaped heads.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. But, and pulling it back, Oriental medicine is based around balance. The martial arts, and Tai Chi, or any of the Taekwondos, or any of the the Qigong, exactly. Any of the martial arts that go back are always, they all have different modalities, they all do different things, but they always come back to the idea of balancing in your center, and all your movements, therefore, are balanced around your center. Right. Power comes from those hips, from the hara, from a balanced stance, from a balanced movement. When you look at some of the wrestling arts, the jiu-jitsus and so on, they're always trying to overcome your opponent by in essence engaging in sort of a dance with them, where your body and their body become one thing, and you control the balance point of the two of you. Mm-hmm. And you overcome the other person's balance by center by becoming balance. One with them first. So you meld, become one, and then you shift your balance so that they're out of balance, and you throw them. Mm-hmm. And if it's done right, it's effortless. You aren't picking up the 300-pound opponent. You are becoming one 400-pound thing, and then you're unbalancing that part and throwing it to the side as though it were nothing.
Mm-hmm. It's understanding that flow, that where the fulcrum, where the center of mass happens to be, and then how to shift it very subtly, usually, in another direction.
Or we've been watching, there's a wonderful couple of dance programs on, and we watch them, and because some of the things that you see are so amazing, the balance of these folks who have various different styles of dance, but they all rely on understanding the body, understanding its balance points, understanding how to move that balance point with strength, with grace, with all the things that they do, but it's always around the center. It's always around the core. And you can see many of them will speak about the fact that they have martial arts training, or they have training in another discipline, which allows them to also expand, but also understand a different form of balance. Mm-hmm. So that balance gives them agility, gives them strength, gives them power, gives them the ability to leap very high and spin very fast without coming out of control. So all of these things, I'm trying to come to a thesis here.
Okay.
All of these things show us that balance is the place where power meets and can be controlled. You have tremendous power on both sides. If you find the balance point, you can move it with the subtlest of motions. The balance point is the point of stillness, is the point of center, and it's the point where you can move the universe if you find its balance point, because that's the point where everything is so finely balanced that the slightest imbalance, the slightest push, moves the whole.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's all in motion. It's understanding motion too and flow, because as the flow is happening, it's like riding a wave. As the wave is coming in, there is a point of balance that you have to be at,
right,
to ride it all the way in.
And you know, when you find it, that's a great example, because if you're well, not everyone, but many people have certainly have the experience of riding a wave, either surfing it or body surfing or using a raft or whatever. And you can either be behind the wave, you can be in front of the wave. Both those things are sort of disappointing. Being behind the wave, you don't catch it. Being in front of the wave, it catches you. you get caught by the wave, and you get roughed up a little bit. But if you find that balance point, and we've all seen these, incredible surfers who will surf a 50-foot high wave, and they're running through the wave, and it's going 40 miles an hour, and they're coming down of it, and they're poised on the balance point of this 40-mile-an-hour behemoth that's 500 tons of water, and they have about 3 inches of surfboard just like parked in one side of it, and they're on it in their bare feet in a wetsuit and not much else, and they're balanced on the board. The board is balanced on the wave. The wave is moving in balance and harmony with all the other water around it, and it's going 500 tons, 40 miles an hour, and they're just sitting there. This is cool. But when you're at that balance point, it looks like you're not doing much.
It's true.
When the dancer is doing this incredible motion, this incredible pirouette or leap, it looks effortless because they're at the balance point of their body, of the motion. So balance is not just, finding yourself teetering on something and making sure you don't fall. It really is finding the power point, finding the point where all the power that you're particularly trying to use is balanced. If you're not balanced, it'll feel like you're being crushed, or it'll feel like you're emitting, you're constantly giving out, and you're constantly exhausted, or you're being crushed by everybody coming in and attacking you and saying you're an idiot, or whatever.
Whatever.
But at that point of balance, effortless.
And that's the idea, to be in harmony with yourself and everything around you, so that it really doesn't matter what's going on around you, because you maintain that balanced center. Maintaining center. Oh, that is a lifelong journey.
It is. And we've been talking a little bit mostly about the physical, but then if we talk about the mental set, we started with conversation, which is more mental than physical, or certainly more energetic than physical. So if we moved out of the physical realm, it is a lifelong pursuit to be able to balance the energies of your mind, of your interactions with others, of yourself to spirit, yourself to earth. The whole idea, when we were talking about, I think it was either last week or the week before, being grounded, and when you're grounded and you're passing energy both from the earth to the spirit, and you're passing energy back from the spirit to the earth, you're not a conduit, you're not a pipe, you're not some sort of weird antenna. You're the center of the flow of energy from spirit to ground and from ground to spirit. You then have the ability to, at the balance point, use that energy, shape it, become one with it, like a dancer.
Right. And the truth of the matter is, you don't need to know every little iota or erg of energy that's passing through you, because I know people who are like, no, I need to have everything one at a time. I can't do, and you're sitting there going, what are you talking about? When you have a movement, you're standing there going, okay, well, my arm will move and extend this way, then my leg will move and extend that way. It's like wrong part of the brain you're using.
Right.
This is movement from your body brain. And if you think about that, just for a second, you're trying to have your mental aspect try to coordinate movement.
Oh my God. It'd be dead people everywhere.
First of all, you'd stop breathing.
Stop breathing while you concentrated on picking up a cup. I was picking up a cup and I died. Why? Because I forgot to breathe.
Right. But that's why it's so necessary to engage all of you, because you're so much more. But the mental part wants to believe that it's everything. I can do it. I can conceive of the idea that therefore I must be in control. It's like, you are not in control of your breath, your heartbeat, just like being in the moment and acknowledging the fact that there's work being done that really has nothing to do with you.
Mm. Right. You're exactly right. There are folks who want to have a meditation experience, but they want to have it meditation, like paint by numbers. They want to. At first, we had the opening, and then we all, we moved ourselves out into the spaces, and we centered ourselves, and then the energies came in, the blue energy, and then the yellow energy, and then the green energy, and we had 3 energies, and then we had 5, and then 17, and then we had 445. You're missing the experience. It's like people who run around with their cell phone. Here they are, they're at Disney World or wherever they are, having a wonderful time, and instead of enjoying it, they're taking a picture.
Constantly, yeah.
Constantly taking a picture. And you're not in the moment anymore. You're trying to catalog it. You're trying to write it down. You are no longer in the meditation. You are trying to,
document it.
Document it. You're trying to say, my third chakra is in my left toe right now, and I'm trying to move it to my knee. You see, and it's very hard because it's like way down there. It's like
yeah. Well, but that's my point. Getting lost in the mental. Now, the mental has its gifts. Don't get me wrong, okay? But there is a balance point for the mental aspect. And the need at this point is to be able to acknowledge that you can think and process things, examine things. It's a marvelous thing that the thinking mind can do. But if you give it too much priority, you become sick because you are out of balance at that point. There's not enough consideration done for what the body needs happen to be, because your body will tell you what it actually needs at that moment, that mesentery. It will tell you more than whether or not you're hungry.
Right.
There's many things that will tell you if you allow for a different form of conversation to occur between you, who is the person that is observing and making decisions, and the one that you are, that is trying to allow you to communicate to the body, or allow that communication of the body to who you are. And then, of course, there's many other things that have got to play into that, which is what the emotions happen to be at the moment, and what is on your heart, because many times the blockage comes from the fact that the heart itself is not perceived. You cannot feel where the block in the heart is. It's clouding your ability to perceive what's actually going on around you. And it takes patience with yourself to be able to do this, to open and to allow. So it's a journey for all of us to really begin to see how things can come out of balance and how they've come out of balance, and then coming back to that wholeness and clarity that the heart can have. And honestly, if you ask a person right now about their heart state, most people will either say, gee, I don't know, or I'm really upset.
Well, and we can get into this a little bit because the heart is the Egyptians always thought of the heart as being the place where balance was kept. Where your heart would be taken at the end of your life and it would be weighed against a feather, and that if a heart was heavy, it would overbalance the feather. If a heart was light, it would rise up, and that the idea that as your heart became unbalanced, it became heavy and dark, and if the heart was full of light,
or too light,
too light. The whole idea was that the heart was that organ of balance, and I think that's really, it was an insight. It wasn't necessarily what they were talking about directly about the feather and all that stuff, but the heart is an organ of balance, because when you're out of balance, you feel it in your heart. You feel your heart. You feel the language informs. My heart feels heavy. I feel my heart feels broken, or my heart is overjoyed. My heart is bursting with joy. My heart is flying up into the heavens with joy. The heart does have that idea of not only balance, but of being able to weigh things and be able to understand when things are unbalancing you. You understand them in the heart.
Well, the Egyptians, the balance point, you couldn't have it too heavy and you couldn't have it too light, because it meant basically that you were not connected to this world. This is the lightest, that when they're saying a light heart, it's not the same as what we think of as lighthearted.
Correct.
This is disconnected.
Right, and that's true too. When you see people that are ungrounded,
and
we see lots of them. Well, and I think what we'll do now is ground ourselves through our heart back into the studio. We're going to have a couple of quick commercials, and then we're going to come back and talk more about balance.
God on Patrol is a first-person account of the world of law enforcement from the perspective of a Christian police officer in the fourth largest city in America. From speeding car chases to the crossing of the thin blue line, author Mark S. Cariner seeks to find God's biblical truth in a behind-the-scenes look at law enforcement. And check out Mark's newest book, The Tactical Heart. Both are available at Amazon.com.
Hi, this is Pamela Foland. Check out my new book, Megan the Pet Whisperer, available at Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. Please visit my website, www.pamelafoland.com. You're listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
Hi, my name is Christina Garlick, and my new book, Nevada Rain, is now available. It's a sci-fi fantasy story for ages 14 and up. I hope you check it out, and of course enjoy. Also, you're listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network that has a station for everyone.
listening to The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Now let's get back to your hosts. They may be old and may not require much sleep, but gosh darn it, they know what they're talking about. It's Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thanks, man. We may be old. We may not be old. You never know. We are old. No, I'm sorry. I'll tell you. I'm old. Margaret, on the other hand, is just, a svelte young thing.
Oh, man. All right. Let's get back.
We're trying to balance here, folks.
Yeah. Let's get back to balance here.
Yeah, let's get back to balance.
Oh,
and speaking of balance, and speaking of the two of us, male and female is another way of looking at balance. And I'm not talking just male and female from the point of view of sexuality. What we're really talking about is that there is commonality. Of course, we're all of us are humans, males and females, and so on. But the idea that there is a duality in nature amongst almost all of the animals on this world and us, and that the duality is both important as well as informative. If the whole world was women or the whole world was men, I know that's a frightening thought. We're just going to go on. If the whole world was just one sex, or really there was no sex in essence, which is also a frightening thought. But moving on. But there was just a type of person, and that there was no need for sort of balance between the differences that occur between these two, let's say, generic types of people, this male person and this female person. There's a need to understand the differences as well as the commonality, and that informs us. It informs every part of our language. It's almost like fish swimming in water. We don't know that we're swimming in the water of duality all the time. I mean, you know it, but the things that are part of us are so steeped in that duality, Well,
it's exactly that. It's the understanding that the human being is made for relationship. Relationship means two at that point. And that is how our minds are actually how we actually process things. It's understanding it's a relative. We start a relative thing. We start off with ourselves as center, and then we expand outward and investigate, well, what is that outward thing? Who is that other?
The other, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's a constant thing. Eventually you get to a point where you're able to place your consciousness into the other. And then that's when that byplay starts happening. That's why, again, back to the Tao, the eye is filled with the other's color, or lack thereof. And it's being filled with that acknowledgement of who that other is, or what that other is. It fills your mind, your consciousness, your being state. The whole idea is that you are a complete person, a sphere of energy, a living being. And when you engage with the other, you take that other person's energy and being into yourself, and you begin to get to know the other, filling that I with the other. So that if you think about the way that movement is, you must maintain the other as your focus. They become first, so that byplay and that movement can happen. If you fill that eye up with just you're back to that single sphere that just sits there and emits, this is me.
Well, and you can conceive of something we could call balance with unity. If there was one thing in the whole universe, just call it, let's say, just one, ball, and the whole universe, the rest of it, there's nothing. And it isn't that there's, the universe is one thing. It is a ball. That is balance in one sense of it, but it's not. It's a very trivial form of balance because it's all I. Where you end up having to have balance is when the I and the other come together, because then there's what's called a disturbance. Your unity is disturbed by another unity, and you have a duality. And when you disturb a unity, first of all, you should run, because unities are very, very, very mean. But once you disturb a unity, the unity has to react. It can ignore, try to completely deny the existence of the other. But generally speaking, interaction isn't. You can't ignore when interaction has occurred. Once you put the duality into the universe, there's an automatic what? There's an automatic attraction, an automatic repulsion, an automatic deformation, everything starts to move. So one thing about unities, which is why they're so mean, is because nothing is actually happening. Unities are also zeros. Zero is a unity. People think of unity.
It's a singularity.
It's a singularity. It is all, but it is also nothing. Dualities, universes that have two things in them, move. They change. They have dynamism. There's an energy interchange. There's reactions and interactions and collisions and all kinds of things happen. It's a much more interesting universe it's infinitely more interesting in the same way that 1 is infinitely more than 0. So 2 is infinitely more than 0. The 0 is all, but it's also nothing. The 2 is all, but it's also something.
Because no, it's true. That's true.
So our universe, at a basic, let's call it at a basic subatomic level, has duality. It has things which are and things which are not. It has things which are positive and things that are negative. Now, these are convenient words. We could say male and female. We could see any two opposites. But the point of being is that those opposites, you say opposites attract, but opposites also repel. Opposites do all kinds of things. Any two individual entities in a universe where they can interact can do pretty much anything. The universe becomes infinite when you have two. When you have one, the universe is not infinite, it's 0. When the universe has 2, it's infinite. So we have a universe of 2, you and me.
Oh. I feel the infinite waves coming in.
I do too, and it's kind of nice. It's kind of like, yeah, this is cool. I like the infinite waves. The infinite waves are nice.
But it's interesting because when you look at it in terms of a singularity, let's face it, there's all these theories out there, but the ones that are being presented to the broader public mindset with all the graphics that they have now, they show what they conceive of what it must look like to have a black hole, and then to have matter falling into the black hole. And that black hole is the definition of a singularity. Mm-hmm. It is all and nothing, because they can't even figure out what's going to happen when you come to the edge of that black hole. Mm-hmm. That black hole is intercepting a 4-dimensional universe. And it's again referring back to Flatland, where you had a multiple, you have a two-dimensional and a multi-dimensional interaction happening. And the two-dimensional universe can only conceive of it in just those two dimensions. It can't expand outwards. And what we're seeing here with this concept of a black hole is exactly that. That's what it looks like when something that is multi-dimensional is intersecting with our universe. It looks like a giant black hole.
Well, it's the other way around. Our multidimensional universe is intersecting with something which has no dimension, but that intersection is
or all dimension, because that's what a singularity is.
But the point is well taken in the essence that these parts of the all don't interact with any other piece of the universe. When you become a singularity as a person, this is let's say the deepest depths of depression. If you look at a person who has shut down, who has focused everything inside, who doesn't want to interact with any other person on the planet, this is a person who is in the depths of a self-focused depression. To open up that universe, you have to look outward. You have to find an other.
Right.
The universe is infinite, but the universe inside every, to use an analogy, the universe inside every person is also infinite. There's an infinite space inside many people's heads. But there's an infinite space inside the human heart, and if you focus only inward inside the heart, you have maybe safety, you have unity, but you don't have very much by way of love, understanding, interaction, flow, balance. You've got none of that. You just have a very inwardly focused, depressed kind of heart.
Right. It's actually how do you say this? The heart itself excuse me. The heart itself is the focal point for the expression of love. That frequency comes through the heart. And heart balance is an interesting thought, because a heart that's imbalanced means that it's shut down in certain areas. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a broken heart where it's been shattered or torn, a reality sphere has been shattered or torn, and the only recourse, because when your heart's shattered, it wants to become whole again. It wants to be balanced and at peace again. And the only way that happens is if you allow something greater than the concept of what you think you are to come in. You have to allow for the fact that you are much more than the experience that you've just had. Because frankly, if you were the experience you just had and it was that bad, you shouldn't be alive. But you are more than that. So you have to touch into that life force that resides within you, that is intimately connected to your heart. And it's surrendering every concept you thought of who you were, your identity, and frankly, the concepts that the world tries to impose on you on who you are, because those are not big enough to be able to heal your heart. The shattering is, and I'm talking of complete shattering, where you have no ground. There's nothing to stand on. You feel like you are literally in free fall, because everything that you thought you knew, and this is why I'm saying that the mind thinks in relative terms, everything that you related to is gone. So you have no ground to stand on because suddenly who you thought you were, your origin point, is no longer there. But you're still alive. Heart balance, coming back to that, you know that that is possible. When you're in that state, you know there's a way, but you may not know how to do it because your mind can't do it.
Well, and when, that whole idea of unity again, the shattered heart or the heart which is wounded can, if it's not careful, become a very lonely heart, a very inwardly focused heart, a heart which is out of balance in that way too.
Yes. If it's singular and you've basically built the shell around you that is just you and not reaching outward, you're actually deadening a part of your soul because your soul is looking for relationship. You were born for relationship. It knows no other way. So when you shut that off, you deaden a part of yourself.
You throw yourself out of balance.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think if you look at life from the arc of life, and everyone's life goes through these points when we are shoved out of balance, and it can be something traumatic and tragic, and it can be something which is just something which just happens to you, which you have very little control over. Something that you did, you can choose to push yourself out of balance. You can, by your actions, push yourself into an unbalanced state. Events can occur that unbalance you. You can be born unbalanced. But in fact, with all humor aside, we all go through these really constant periods of trying to get pushed off center. So the idea of cultivating relationship and cultivating the ability to go outside yourself. One of the things which you'll notice with any tightrope walker, and if you've ever seen one, they take a very long pole with them as they walk out on the tightrope. Well, there's a very good reason for that. You wouldn't normally say, well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out someplace really, really dangerous, have like an inch of wire to walk on, and I'm going to carry something heavy. And you think to yourself, that's crazy. But in fact, what they've done is they've made themselves kind of like wings, like this giant long thing that they can balance themselves with. Again, putting themselves on the wire, putting themselves in this point of ultimate balance, and then being able to, in that balance, move just a little bit up if they're going the wrong way with their very long pole, with these long wings. Well, your relationships are like that. Your relationship with spirit, the relationship with others around you. When your heart gets pushed off balance, if it's just you, it's like you're a tightrope walker who doesn't have any pole. You can get pushed off balance and you're going to fall. And you may fall and you may never get up again. If it's you with somebody who you can balance yourself with a spiritual relationship you can balance yourself with connections. The people try to push you off, events try to push you off, and you go, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting pushed. Let me just balance myself with the relationship with my Creator. Balance myself with my relationship with my other. And I come back. And I'm now wholer, more healed. And then the return is you get pushed off. Someone else you love gets pushed off, and you balance them. You become both, and this is the relationship part, you become both the emitter of balance and the receiver of balance, the emitter of that energy that helps someone, and the receiver of that same energy. The yin and the yang is also the balance. If you try to push the yin, the yang moves. If you try to pull the yin moves. They stay in balance. They're in close harmony and contact with each other all the time, and it helps keep them together, keep them solid. If you have just the sphere and you push it, it rolls. But if you have this yin and yang with this amazing balance point in the center of it, you try to push the one, it just kind of rolls out. It just moves out of the way. So yeah, I'm good. Martial artists, when they're balanced and in their stance, they say push me. They say push me over. and they put themselves in stance, they ground, and you can't push them over. This giant 300-pound guy is trying to push over the little 150-pound guy, and he's like, can't do it. And then he just does this little move, and the 300-pound guy goes flying because he's balanced. He's got the relationships which you can't see with his energy and with the things around him that balance him. So this idea of extending yourself into relationship is also preventing yourself from being easy to unbalance.
And maintaining. I mean, the idea of that pole that the tightrope walker has, if you can imagine the Tao, and each end of the pole is where the eyes are.
Yes.
And you understand that as you're walking, you're moving, you're carrying that with you, maintaining center so it doesn't matter where it goes. You are always coming back to center. And you can go through that tightrope and get to the end of it.
Right, or that incredible, blow from wherever that tries to push you off balance.
Absolutely. And balance itself, it's a marvelous thing. That concept of balance. I mean, it's something that humans have had for a very long time, and something that is taught from generation to generation to try to maintain balance.
Yeah, and you can see it both writ small in individuals, which is really the root of it all. But then you can see it writ large in societies and in cultures. And cultures which are balanced are inherently more stable than cultures that are not. We spoke a little bit earlier about having culture, let's say, where the whole culture was, let's say, focused on one thing. Like everybody's focused on the male, or everybody's focused on the female. Well, those cultures may flourish for a time, but if you come up against a more balanced, more stable culture, where those energies, where the deficiencies of one side, if you're all the way on the end of the balance pole, you may still be able to hang on, but it's very easy to tip you over. And similarly, if you're all the way on the other end of the balance pole of a society or a culture, you're very unstable. You're not maintaining the flow. You're either like we were speaking about before, either emitting all the time or receiving all the time, and you're either being crushed or you're being exhausted. People who you would have when you were doing the meditations, you would have folks who would want to be emitting all the time, always taking all the high energy stones, they want to be blazes of light. And you have ones that I want every grounder in the store. I need to ground, and everything's going in, and neither one of those things works for a period of time. I know you would do this to folks. You would say, well, you're very ungrounded right now. And I mean very ungrounded right now. And you'd hand them something heavy, literally like a big black rock, like a big black tourmaline. Hold on to this. You need it. And they're like, or somebody comes in and they have just, their energy is so bollocked. So you say, here, take this piece of selenite, this incredibly light, this incredible emitter, and let it allow you to connect up to the higher energies, the higher frequencies. You were balancing them. But then they would just come in and want the hit. Oh, I need all the high energy crystals right now because I need to get high. And the other one's like, I'm so crazy. I need every rock in the store so I don't float away. And you're like, but you can't stay. It's like having medication and being on it all the time. You need to take what you need and then learn to do it yourself. Learn to balance yourself and then stay balanced.
No, it's true, because people, they want the instant result. And the whole idea is that everything around you is here to help you, but you've got to grow. If you've discovered that suddenly you're not grounded and you need to ground, or, the high energy stones are what you want because, again, you like that feeling. But you just don't want to change anything. You just want what you want. It doesn't work that way.
That doesn't work that way in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
If you're depending on somebody to always bail you out of your horrible situation, you're always sucking in.
Mm-hmm.
If you're always the one who everybody comes to give, you're always giving out. Well, you're going to be exhausted, or you're going to be a parasite. Those two things, for a period of time, you say, I need right now. I'm hurting. But there has to be a season of taking in, and then the season of giving out.
And that's what the flow is about. It's understanding the give and the take of flow.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't just be one or the other.
Right.
It's acknowledging the fact that you must be in the flow. So there are times when you must receive, and there are times when you must give. Doing one or the other, or to the exclusion of the other, usually means trouble.
And what you were saying before, you don't sit there and say, well, today I will give, and tomorrow I will receive. You give in spirit, in trust, and you receive in trust and in spirit. And you can be receiving and giving at the exact same time. It's like when you're in connection, you're in meditation in connection, and you can be getting worked on and also helping at the same time. It isn't, again, the paint by numbers meditation. It isn't the paint by numbers relationships. You can be both a giver and a receiver, and you should be at all times. If you're in the flow, the yin and yang are always giving and receiving all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a time when the yin says, well, now I'm going to take some yang stuff, and then I'll get back to you.
Well, at this point, we have come to the end of our cycle.
A balanced show, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And I hope that it has in some way helped. So I am one of your hosts, Margaret.
She's the balanced one.
No, two of us together are balanced.
And I'm the unbalanced one. And I'm Michael, and thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.